Howdy, Connection Group leaders. Happy Thursday. Welcome to, the Smoke Zone. I am busy smoking all the meat for our big first responders feed that we're doing tomorrow. By the way, we could still use a handful of volunteers, so if you want to come help us out tomorrow, again, it's 6 a.m. to 6 a.m. Friday into Saturday. So contact me and we'd love to come help you out. But I've done 210 pounds of meat so far today. Not quite done, but it's a lot of fun. Anyway, we've got a real light, easy, no sweat lesson on Sunday, right? Nothing controversial. We're just talking about being submissive to the government. What could possibly go wrong? If you've not looked at the lesson yet, man, bear down, get to praying. I say that. I don't expect Sunday morning to be an issue, but I also wouldn't be surprised if you end up having some pretty spicy conversations amongst your class. Be prepared for that. Be peaceful above all else, unless you have somebody just really going nuts. If that's the case, don't hesitate to give one of us on staff a phone call. We'll come and help you out. But be prayed up. No kidding, because that's what it takes anyway on a regular basis, but certainly in a lesson like this. But let me tell you a story that might be helpful to you. So last night after midweek, me and my kids are taking one of the students home, and this particular student is telling me a story about just some of the treatment that they've experienced and how it's really, really hard to forgive. And I'm completely compassionate towards that. But this particular student was real flippant, like, nope, no, not a chance, not forgiving them, no way, no how. And so, no kidding, after every single sentiment, the student would say, but you don't know, he did this or she did this. My response was always, forgive as you have been forgiven, which of course is what Jesus taught us, right? But he did this to me, forgive as you've been given. But they said this, forgive as you've been forgiven. And I know that was probably terribly annoying. But I bring that story up to you because this particular passage reads like that when it says, be subject to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God. Man alive, how many times do we need to repeat that to themselves? Certainly if you watch the news, for heaven's sakes, during a Supreme Court justice hearing, regardless of what political party you're from, you've got stuff that you could be terribly annoyed about, right? Submit to governing authorities, because there is no authority except that which is granted by God. And you have to repeat that to yourself over and over and over again. Guys, we need to be people that are repeating that over and over again to one another, particularly when we are so irritated about what's going on in our country. Are there bad things? Yes. Was that true in Israel when this was written? Yes. And the lesson actually does a pretty good job of bringing that up, but I think it's worth pointing out, and this really is something that we've got to drive home to ourselves. There is no American exception to this particular verse. There's no constitutional republic exception. There's no Texas exception to this. Governing authorities, all governing authorities, all of them, have been put in place by God. Man, we've got to believe that because it's true, and we've got to teach that and proclaim that to one another. And by the way, if we don't do that, it is so easy. Look at how the chapter ends. It's so easy to make provisions for our flesh when we don't. And it's incredibly hard to love our neighbors when we don't do this either. So this is where we've got to start. And so it's a great chapter. It's not long, but it's incredibly painful. And so I'm begging you as group leaders, if nothing else, do this on Sunday. It's not a mantra. Repeat this verse to one another. There is no governing authority except that which has been placed by God. All of them, all of our representatives, all governments in the world have been put in place by God. And I know that that's hard to wrap our minds around, but this is not a new concept. This has always been true. There's always been good governments and bad governments, and good kings and bad kings, and good leaders and bad leaders. This has always been true. And I'm not even begin to tell you why God does that. But I know that he's a good king, and I know at the end of the day, he's my king. So let me also challenge you with this. Think about how Jesus stood before Herod himself. Think about how Jesus conducted himself. Even being someone who was actually above that authority, Jesus was still respectful. Jesus also pointed out, hey, nothing that you're doing to me right now can be done without the authority granted to you by my Father. Jesus recognized that in front of the king. I'm submitting to you because it's the right thing to do and because my Father has permitted this. If that's how our Savior conducted himself in front of governing authorities, man, we should be too. So think about that. Pray for your leaders. Pray for our current leaders. And then it is more than acceptable and good for us to pray for, as in God, give us godly leaders. And I do believe God hears those prayers and frequently grants them to us. Again, nothing controversial this week. Guys, I'm praying for you. I'm excited about Sunday. I'm excited about this weekend. I'm excited about the leaders that we get to bless this weekend. Good first responders, bad first responders, and I don't know that there's any bad first responders, but all of them, they show up, they're going to get fed. Y'all come help us do that. We love you. We're praying for you. We'll talk to you soon. Bye.